Help me, Brian.
The voice was faint, broken, desperate. A 13-year-old boy lay bleeding in the dark on a cold Spokane street, shoes flung nearly 100 feet from his body, his lifeline slipping away with every breath. It was 1:05 a.m. on June 4th, 1989, and Russell Sigurd Evans was dying. The police would call it a hit and run, but his family, they believed something far more sinister had taken place that night. This is the haunting story of a young boy who tried to walk home and never made it. And over 3 decades later, the chilling question still lingers. Was Russell Evans the victim of a tragic accident or a brutal murder buried beneath silence and fear? Russell Evans was no different from most 13-year-old boys in Spokane, Washington. He was an 8th grader at Shaw Middle School, loved basketball, and was known for his gentle spirit and loyalty to his friends. Everyone called him Russ. He lived in a quiet neighborhood with his parents and younger sister Diana, a tight-knit family, deeply protective of each other. But on the night of June 3rd, 1989, Russell made a choice that would change everything. He went out to Thornton Murphy Park with his close friend Aaron. It was supposed to be just another summer evening, fresh air, laughter, maybe some teenage chatter. But that night, tensions flared. Aaron got into a heated argument with another teen over a girl. The situation escalated. Voices were raised. Threats were made. And then Russell, just 13, remember, stepped in. He tried to de-escalate, calm things down, protect his friend, but instead, he became the target. The other boys turned their attention to him, threatening him. Angry, aggressive, sensing danger, Russell and Aaron left quickly and decided to spend the night at a friend's house. The situation had unnerved them. But at midnight, Russell made a decision. He called his father and told him he was coming home. He said goodbye to his friends and walked out into the darkness. He would never walk through his front door again. It was 1:05 a.m. when Sandy Ferris and her friend were driving down Thor Avenue, just a couple blocks from Russell's house. What they saw made their hearts stop. A young boy crumpled in the street, alone, bleeding. They pulled over immediately and called 911. As they waited, Sandy knelt beside him. He was conscious, barely. His voice was raspy, full of pain. But he kept saying the same thing over and over. "Help me, Brian, Brian, help me." That name, he clung to it like a lifeline. An ambulance arrived at 1:30 a.m. and rushed Russell to the hospital. He never regained full consciousness, and by 9:10 a.m., Russell Evans was gone. Doctors tried everything, but his injuries were massive, consistent, police said, with being struck by a vehicle. But something felt wrong. The scene didn't add up. His shoes were found 75 feet from his body. His shoelaces separated completely and lying even further away. 3 pools of blood, not one, were discovered 50 feet apart, spread in different directions, and no skid marks, no tire tracks, no broken parts or paint chips. Russell had been found lying beside the median strip, not in a traffic lane, not where you'd expect a hit-and-run victim to land. Something wasn't right, and his family knew it. Police ruled Russell's death a hit-and-run accident. They theorized he'd been struck from behind by a speeding pickup truck, maybe while crossing the road. A forensic pathologist supported the claim, stating the injuries were consistent with a bumper strike. But Russell's parents, Sigurd and Carolyn Evans, weren't convinced. They knew their son, and they knew when something didn't make sense. The evidence didn't fit the hit-and-run theory. Why were the blood pools so far from the body if he was thrown on impact? How did his shoelaces separate from his shoes without ripping or tearing? And then came something even more troubling. When they requested the full police report, they discovered that investigators had failed to mark the location of his body. No exact measurements, no proper photographs, no diagrams. It was as if the scene had been dismissed before anyone truly analyzed it. Determined to get answers, the Evans family hired a second pathologist. This expert found signs of blunt force trauma inconsistent with an accident. There were bruises on Russell's back, shaped in a way that suggested he had been struck with an object not hit by a car, a baseball bat, a 2x4. And then came the name again, Brian. Russell had called for him in his final moments. His parents confronted Brian Russell's friend. He denied being there, but said something odd. "Yeah, I was wearing white shorts that night." Why did that matter? Because Sandy Ferris, the witness who found Russell, reported seeing a teenager in white shorts running up the hill, away from the scene. And then another strange detail surfaced. At the hospital, someone had called asking about Russell's condition. The name they gave? Ryan. But when the family tried to follow up, Brian claimed he'd never made that call. Was he lying or being threatened? For years, the Evans family pushed for answers. They knocked on doors, called detectives, interviewed friends, held community meetings. And then in 1996, 7 years later, something finally shifted. A new witness came forward. They claimed they had overheard a member of the group. Russell had argued with confessed to killing him and running him over on purpose. Other witnesses came forward, two saying the same suspect had boasted about the killing at parties and in private. Some said they'd been threatened into silence. This was the break the Evans family had waited for. Finally, it seemed like someone might be held accountable. But Spokane police didn't agree. They stood by their ruling. They said the witness testimonies were too inconsistent. No physical evidence linked the boys from the park to the scene. The case was never reopened. No arrests were made, and prosecutors declined to press charges. Russell's parents fought for justice until the day they died. His father, Sigurd, passed away in 1998. His mother, Carolyn, died in 2011. But they never stopped believing that their son had been murdered, and that someone in the community knew who did it. Today, Russell's sister Diana continues the fight. She's called for new investigations. She's spoken out in interviews. She's kept her brother's memory alive. But 3 decades later, the case remains cold. No suspect has ever been arrested, and the official record still lists Russell's death as an unresolved hit and run. 13 years old, just a boy, walking home after standing up for a friend, and someone, maybe multiple people, decided that he wouldn't make it there. Whether Russell Evans was beaten and murdered or struck by a careless driver, one thing is painfully clear: someone knows the truth, and someone has lived with that secret for over 30 years. To this day, his sister Diana waits for closure, for justice, for a name, because Russell deserves more than a mystery. He deserves the truth. And if anyone still remembers that night on Thor Avenue, it's time to come forward. Subscribe to Vanished and Unsolved for more unsolved mysteries. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.